Good morning, everybody. Welcome to A Cup of Ray on a Sunday morning down here, of course. As I noted in the hashtags at the top of the page, I am down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge district of St. Petersburg. And it is just a typical, I don't want to say balmy. The humidity's starting to come back. We had such a great winter. We had a nice wet. Was it El Nino or what's going on? There's going to be more hurricanes. Let's stay tuned for that. But we've had a beautiful winter, and the humidity's starting to creep back in. And now it looks like we're pretty much set. They talked about a little bit of drier air because all you people who have down here in Florida, or those of you watching from all over the contiguous United States, and you've been down here, you understand that the fronts just start coming as far, they stop staying as long, and they stop coming as strong. And that's exactly where we're at today. But that's okay, because today we've got a couple of things on tap. The Lightning start the playoffs for the 2024 playoffs against those stinking Panthers from Miami. Not the Florida Panthers, they're the Miami Panthers. And also the Rays are playing Game 3 up there in the Bronx versus the Yankees with a great win yesterday afternoon. We could talk about that. We talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. I'm going to get the comments up. I do have a comment. Oh, Ralph Williams, my guy. Ralph Williams, good morning, Ray. Good morning, Ralph. I hope you enjoyed the runner at the top of the show. I do own that music. It is not copyrighted. That is my show opener, and I was going to run it so I could share to a couple of pages. And do me a favor, Ralph, if you could just hit the share button. I appreciate it. And any of y'all out there watching, to start a conversation this morning. And speaking about conversation, appreciate you, Ralph. I'm going to go ahead and bring my first guest in here. I have a plethora, Leo word of guests. Actually, I only have one, but when you see who my guest is, you'll understand one is more than enough. I'm going to go ahead and bring on now my guy, co-host of the Sports Web with Mr. Peter Blake on Wednesday nights, and also the best, smartest handicapper I know, Mr. Harry DeGreek. Harry, how are you today?
Smartest handicapper? Wow, that's a pretty big statement there. How you doing, Ray? Good morning. It's Sunday morning for a cup of Ray today.
And Harry, I want to talk about this right off the bat. Appreciate you coming in, by the way. Good to see you. Remember about 15, 20 years ago, go back before, we had the Bucks, we had the Rowdies, but before the Lightning, of course, that would be 26 years ago. I'm getting so old. Before the Lightning and the Rays, before these teams started consistently making the playoffs and Tampa Bay became Tampa Bay, it used to just be kind of a kitschy thing if, for example, if the Buccaneers were still playing and you had a Lightning game the same day, and you're like, oh, they're playing, or the Rays and the Bucks were playing. And, of course, if it was the Rays and the Lightning, because the seasons overlap as the hockey season comes to an end in March or the playoffs, and then but nowadays, seems like every year consistently since 2020, if not sooner, we've got a team in the playoffs every season, one of our professional sports teams. How does that feel for you, someone like myself who grew up here in Florida, that we have that kind of stuff going on here now in Tampa Bay?
It's fantastic, actually. I mean, what's not to like about it? I mean, you either have a hockey team, a football team, or a baseball team going to the playoffs. Sometimes all three of them.
Playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, it's a great time to be in Tampa Bay.
Great time to be in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. Not a good time to be Vontae Porter. Let's go ahead and talk about this, Jean.
What a segue into that. Let's talk handicapping. I was just going to give out some lines too, but let's talk about some other things, especially in basketball. What about Mr. Porter?
Let me ask you this, Harry. The fact that just 2 weeks prior, we had evidence with Shohei Ohtani going out there, and of course he got taken by his interpreter, and what a deal that was. But the media was digging in right from the very get-go. Was digging in. It came out of his account. He was paying a $4.5 million. He went back a day later and said, "No, I didn't know about it. He was robbing from me." And there was all the investigations because the media was so quick to want to make Shohei get tied into that, even though there was never really any proof other than the admitting of his interpreter. But then the Porter thing happens not even 2 weeks later, and that guy, they got him going out injury in games. They're proving that he's betting parlays on himself in these games. He's a 10th man off the bench, but he's putting an $80,000 bet for a $1.5 million payout. Why did the media turn their back on the Porter situation until more facts came when they were trying to press that facts into account that didn't exist in the Ohtani case?
Wow, Ray. Let's go back to the two-shot.
Yes, sir.
There's a reason why. It's because you and I talked about it way back when you brought me on the scenes with the evil empire itself. Okay? And we were sitting out in the driveway with the shot of the palm trees in the back, and you and I were talking about gambling. 4 or 5 shows later, you and I broke it and said, you know what? Gambling is a lot of fun, but it has no place within the venues. Major League Baseball, the NBA, MLB, MLS, and NFL have no business to be in bed. We were talking about it, shouting it from the top of the mountains. No business in their sports. They're going to put them in all the venues, all the sports books. They're going to they're going to give a portion of the proceeds and the profits to the respective sports, such as Major League Baseball or even the National Football League. We knew this was going to happen. There were isolated incidents with Pete Rose, Albert Bell, Michael Jordan. Okay, those were isolated incidents. If you think that this is happening only with Mr. Porter and the accusations from Mr. Shohei Ohtani, you're living under a rock. They are going to bury this as much as possible because they can't afford the black eye. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the real reason, Ray. And it has no place in their venues. You need to separate church from state. The gambling belongs to the people, not the players, not the owners, and not the respective leagues. It just doesn't. And you asked about Shohei Ohtani, Ray. Let me tell you something. Someone doesn't miss $4.5 million and doesn't know what the hell's going on. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I'm going to say. And as far as Mr. Porter, you got caught. What about the four? What about the four bastards that got caught from Indianapolis throwing the game against Minnesota down by 30 points?
And,
Huh?
and
What
yeah,
happened
no,
to them?
and that's the thing is
Nobody wants to talk about it.
they don't. And Harry, you're right, because on one hand, I mean, that's what got my hair got me up so much, is that I knew as much as I knew what they didn't have, because that's the thing we learn about it. At the end of the day, it's what can you prove? Where's your facts? Where do you go with your evidence? At the end of the day, I truly believe it wasn't just a language barrier, but I truly believe they realized, and I don't think baseball ever would want to realize if they could tie Shohei Ohtani to those bets, because he's baseball's golden boy. He's the Los Angeles Dodgers now. But at the same time, they didn't have enough evidence on him, but they were grinding at it, almost like they knew the ending that was going to come to this. The interpreter, he's gone forever. They're going to put him in a prison, out on with Dr. Mudd after he helped John Wilkes Booth set his leg after he assassinated Abraham Lincoln. I don't know where that reference came from. I'm watching Manhunt and Apple TV. But then this one where Porter's dead to rights. He goes out, he hit his shoulder, but then he told the coach, because the coach didn't think it was big enough to take him out, oh no, I also got something in my eye. That was the game in which he had to parlay spit on himself. The dead to rights evidence was there. The media now. Is the media just trying to protect their golden dog, making sure that they keep professional sports moving forward so the media, at least what's left of it, can continue to cover these sports? Or are the big leagues telling these media people what they can and can't cover, or what they should or shouldn't go after?
Right, that's a great question, but let's be real. I mean, it's not an isolated incident, and they're going to try to bury it. There's coaches that are betting. It's documented that they're burying it. There's coaches, there's players. It's sick. It's really sick on what's happening, and they've tainted the game. And I'll tell you what, the only people that are ever going to be able to fix this, it's going to be the court system. Because it's sure as hell not going to be Major League Baseball, the NBA, and it's definitely not going to be the NFL. They stand to lose too much money. But you remember when General Motors had all the conspiracies going on and the banking systems and everything? Who stepped in? The federal courts. They straightened it out.
Oh, I tell you what, though, Harry, you're talking, and go back to the collateralized collateral. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
Go back to the collateralized debt with the upside down in 28, with the falling down and the breaking of real estate. And yeah, this government stepped in there too, protected Fannie Mae, protected their own fannies. But you're right. How many of these congressional and senators are getting money kickbacks from their own, where they're from, because in the areas they come from, or in the district that they represent, they're getting kickbacks from legalized gambling at that level.
It's happening here in Florida. I don't want to get into a political discussion, okay? Personally, I don't like going to the Hard Rock, okay? For multiple reasons. Number one, they're the tightest machines in the world. You can't win. You cannot win there. Everything favors the house. You got to give a little carrot once in a while. Tunica, Biloxi, Atlantic City, Vegas, you have better odds. But the Seminole tribe coerced the state of Florida, 2 previous regimes before, when they turn around and says, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars to go ahead and let us be the only ones to have casino gambling. And then it became wagering. and they stroked the check to the state of Florida. So let me ask you this, ladies and gentlemen, and including you, Ray. Why is it okay for them to have it, but not the pari-mutuel facilities, such as Derby Lane, Tampa Greyhound Track, Tampa Horse Track, Gulfstream, Jacksonville, Daytona? There's 20 different pari-mutuel facilities that can take sports betting. 20 that can have table games. I'm not asking to pollute our beaches, Ray, with beautiful hotels and casinos because it could turn into another dump like Atlantic City. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for, why is it okay for them only to get these tax breaks, for them to only export X, to go ahead and give X amount of dollars for a 10-year period, when in fact you could take care of the state's complete deficits just with gambling if you allowed the 20 pari-mutuel facilities in the state of Florida and the income that they could receive tenfold of what the Seminole tribe is doing. And I'll tell you why. It's because of what you were talking about. It's about the money and whose pockets they're going to line. And that's exactly what Caesars and Harrah's and everybody else has done. And FanDuel, who I'm a big part of, that's what they've done. So the only ones that can straighten this out, Ray, is the federal government, nobody else.
That's a great point, brother. And I know I've only got you for a few minutes here. I know this. We talked about this.
That. I didn't go off on a tangent. And it sounds like I'm anti-gambling. I'm not.
No, we're not.
I'm anti-bringing it into the venues.
We'll leave this on this because this is a conversation that you and I have been having for over 5 years. It always comes back around to something. It'll be something next week. It'll be a ball player or a football player or someone's tied to them. But let me ask you this. Most dangerous thing to the human race, or at least the American human race, putting up all of the casinos everywhere that will allow not just the pari-mutuel betting, but also the online betting and all that, or the apps that people are downloading into their phones that know exactly what they do 24 hours a day. They know when to pop you. With what do they pop you? They know what you like to bet on. He likes parlays with naked midgets. And so he gets fed, hey, there's a great parlay with a naked midget out of Indonesia, and this guy's dropping $50. That hand, is it the phone with the betting on it that people are carrying around with them, or is it the places that are becoming easier for them to go to and do that gambling?
It's a combination of both, Ray. It's very easy to do that. But now that you're going to have sports books in your venues, believe me, they're coming to Florida. You're going to have sports books going to Florida. And by the way, Tampa fans, Miami fans, Jacksonville fans, Orlando fans, all those proceeds are going to the Seminole tribe. And only a small portion is going to go to the respective owners and their establishments. Just let that sink in for a second. Let me ask you this. For every dollar that you make and you're paying 20% in taxes, but they don't have to pay any? Sorry. That's an issue with me, especially when we're talking billions of dollars. But I'm not getting off on that tangent. Ray, you want to talk a little bit about the poor guy? Not the poor guy, but the guy that tainted the NBA?
Yes.
The reason why we're not going to hear about it is because the NBA isn't what it used to be. It's not the same game. I can't stomach. That's why I don't give out games. Every once in a blue moon, you'll see me say, hey, I like a particular game because I've watched it. But for me to stomach a full game of the NBA playing no defense and back and forth, and then the idea of going, the refs are betting too, it just kills me. It's just becoming worse and worse and worse.
Well, let's go ahead and transition it to something we can be putting a little money on today. By the way, I want to apologize. I used a politically insensitive word a little earlier to refer to my short people friends. It's something that's bothering me. I apologize. There's no right, but at least I acknowledge the fact. I want to let it out there.
A politically incorrect word?
I don't think so. I don't think
so either. If it is, we apologize. Blame him.
She, her, them. I'm not trying to get like that. What I'm saying is I did kind of I was throwing that thing in my head together.
Now we're going to start pronouns. Here we go.
Hey, today's game. First of all, I know you don't want to talk about the White Sox. No offense. They still have the best food in any ballpark in the south side of Chicago.
Baby, 3 wins. But you know what? I am a fan of the Rays. I am a fan of the White Sox. And you know what? I will wear it. Still, 3 wins. Worst team in baseball. And still wear it. Don't call me a homer. I'm not a homer. I'm supporting my team. But go ahead.
Don't call me a homer. I'm just a fan. Like that guy. Is that a rapper? Yeah, no, it's not. Today's game. Talk about the Rays first. Of course, Game 3 there in the Bronx against the New York Yankees. They pulled out
that win yesterday, buddy.
What a great! I was over at $5 Drinkery in Seminole. I will tell you that. Tristan and I went over, had a beer, watched the game. I don't have Bally's. We don't have Bally's at the house. And no offense to Bally's, I'm not saying it's not great. It's a good thing to have, but we did all of our cutbacks for our financials for the 2024 year, and sorry enough, we have YouTube TV in the $19.95 a month for Bally's. I'm always here. Cup of Rays coming from best sports bars in all of Tampa Bay. I'm always catching a game. But today's game, what do you like? Do you like the Yankees to go ahead and win a series and get that third game today, the rubber match, or do you think the Yankees can pull it out there and get that next win there against the Yankees there in the Bronx?
Listen, man, for the past 5 years, the Yankees have been owned by the Tampa Bay Rays. Tampa Bay Rays actually have a winning record, whether it's here or up it's in New York. They got 5 times the amount of payroll. I love Tampa Bay. It's not where I'm putting my money. I'm going to be rooting for them as a fan. It's always very difficult to win on the road. But what I do like, Ray, I'll tell you this much. I like the Lightning as an underdog at the Panthers. I think all the pressure's on the Panthers. I think Tampa Bay is coming in with an extreme momentum, and I love momentum. And you ready
No.
for this? Are you ready for
Yes,
this?
please.
The only thing I like about Miami is catching the 14.5 points today in Boston. They're 14.5 point underdogs in Boston. It's too many points. I don't care if Jimmy Buckets is playing. You need to lay the wood and go ahead and play Miami plus the 14.5.
Did you? Oh, I like that play. I can't believe 14.5 in Boston. That'd be fun to lay it down, even if you're just doing it to give you a little bit of skin in the game to enjoy that game, which, by the way, actually should be a pretty good game.
Don't forget to support your Seminole tribe. Go ahead and wager
it. Well, you know what? I was going to close. I'm going to revert it back. You mind if I do these comments real quick, Harry? So I keep
Go
it
ahead,
going.
Man. I love the comments.
This is awesome. Because I'm my boy Christopher Cole in here. Christopher says, morning, Chris. Ralph Williams says, great opening. God, Ralph, I appreciate that. And he says, my man, Harry. Ralph Williams, he's a dude, isn't he, Harry?
I love Ralph Williams. Ralph, by the way, I'm glad he's doing better. I don't know if people knew it or not. He was in the hospital for a little while. Yep. I don't know why, but I'm sure I will be speaking to him soon.
Hey, he's one of us. Ralph says, what a show. What a show. Ray, Harry the Greek, Peter Blake. Wow. Yeah, there's no Peter yet, but we'll get Peter in here. Alex Dunster says, sup, guys? Sup, Alex? He's getting ready to watch the Rays today. Go Rays, go Lightning. Fred Moore coming on my YouTube channel. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Fred. If you could, Fred, I appreciate you helping me get that YouTube built up a little bit so I've got more streams to go out on. Sounds like I'm running for president.
That's a loose term. Called me a gentleman. What's going on, Fred? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in.
Yes, sir. And Alex Dunster says, good to see you both. Alex, good to see you, brother. Alex, follow Alex on Facebook. Follow his Rays group. He's giving away some tickets tonight. He loves to do that. I love that about Alex. He really gets a little bit of he gets excited about giving tickets away. He likes to see people they're being at their first game. Gave tickets away to I think it was a mother and her son last year. It was the first game they'd ever been to. That's some good stuff. So good to see you, Alex. Appreciate that you guys can share. Oh, and Ralph Williams finishing it off with, thank you guys. So again, I opened up with Harry. I'm down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill down here on Central Avenue, which all y'all know.
District.
In the Edge District. I finally figured out how to get through that. I was starting to have troubles lately. Maybe it's my age, but I was going below 16th Street in the Edge District. I'm trying to go make Edge District one word. And last week, my show here, I went, wait a minute. On Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. See, I screwed it up. God dang it. Talk about this Lightning game today. Lightning playing against those stinking Florida Panthers. And that's a good interstate rivalry, Harry. That's a rivalry we've seen coming in. It took a while to take. First of all, it took a while for Florida. It didn't take really a while for the NHL to come to Florida. We were fans from the moment that Phil Esposito told the NHL to put a team here. And again, thanks to the Hall of Famer Phil Esposito for being the man who brought hockey to Tampa Bay. Who do you like in today's former? Did him and Tony both play for? No, Tony was in Detroit.
Tony who?
Tony Esposito, his brother.
No, Phil Esposito was a
Chicago
Blackhawk. Yes.
One of the best. Yes. Who do you like in today's game? Lightning against the Panthers, Harry.
I like the Lightning. I'm telling you now, the Lightning should win this game. I also like the over. I think they're going to be able to score quite a few goals on Florida. That's my bet of the week. It really is. I really, really like Tampa Bay in this game, and they're underdogs.
I got to get you out of here, and I want to finish with this because this is what I wanted to ask you. Working it back to how we started this whole thing out, I'm going to go back to the gaming. I'm not talking about gambling like it's a bad word. You've already said it's not. It's a great word. We talk about how these communities have trouble building these billion-dollar stadiums for these billionaires who own these teams, and we're seeing it. You see out there with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Stupidly, they put them on the same thing along with the was it KC with the hockey or basketball team and the football team where they try to get it passed to keep a tax to build improvements to Arrowhead Stadium. They said no. You're talking about 6 of the last 27 Super Bowls, these Chiefs, right? One of the, going back to Hank Stram and the entire Chiefs squad. Here in St. Petersburg, we've got the funding for a stadium just based on redevelopment. That seems to be how this gets done. Should these owners that are getting these stadiums built for their teams that are ever increasing in value, so they're getting good bang for their buck on the original investment when they bought the team, even a guy who just bought the Commanders for like $5 billion, he had the money. Should the owners still be expecting these communities to build these billion-dollar stadiums, or is this one of the last ones that might get done, Harry, just because the financing was already in place? And in the future, are we going to see owners having to build them, or do you think there's going to be communities out there looking to still steal these professional teams, regardless of the money they make into gambling and at the gate?
Great question, man, on so many different levels.
Appreciate it.
I still think it's a combination of all of them. But let me say this, like a city like Nashville, they're starving for a professional sports team other than the Predators. Okay, they are. So they're going to do whatever they can to lure them in. Look, anytime you have a professional sports team, whether it's the NBA, NHL, MLB, or even the NFL, it's going to bring billions of dollars worth of revenues to your respective cities. It has to. But as far as them building stadiums and venues for them, I think it's still going to be a combination. But let me throw this out there. Since Caesars and FanDuel and everybody else wants to have their hands into it, why don't the owners start attacking them and saying, hey, we might need some revenues, to help me build this stadium over here since you're making so much money on it. Maybe take a little relief from the taxpayers. That'd be my opinion. But that'll never happen because they're just too greedy, Ray.
Well, that's what it's all about, right? And what drives me crazy on that is you tell me what the wagering is like for last night's game between the Brahmas and Michigan, of course, the UFL, or the games they're having, versus a Super Bowl or an NFL team who's got 70,000 or 80,000 fans in a stadium or college. One of the things I used to always have a problem with the 80s and the Bucks was I used to say, look, if you keep the tickets low, we'll come watch it. You'll get your money on the vending at the gate. You'll get your money on the parking. But at the end of the day, people don't want to see games that are taking place in a 70,000 seat stadium with only 500 people there. There's no excitement. The players aren't up. People can still put money on it. You can still have a wager on it. But these owners, they have to realize not just for us to have a community in which they can build their stadiums and run their teams, but also they need us to put money at the gate. They need us to come to these games. They need to make themselves relevant, to sell themselves to the entire nation. And that, Harry, was one of the things that always bothered me. But I got to work it. Last question for you, Harry. I apologize for the diatribe. I heard this week or last week that Chicago now is looking at building that stadium in downtown Chicago. Did they do away with the original plan to build it up 300 acres? The old horse track they acquired further inland, and they are looking now to build a stadium there, pretty much where Soldiers Field is at now.
Yes and no. For some reason, the city of Arlington, where Arlington Park was at, Churchill Downs owned it, and then the McCaskies ended up purchasing the property for the reasons of actually building a stadium out there. Well, the people in Arlington didn't really want it there because they said it's going to create more sewage, it's going to create this, it's going to create that, and then they wanted a tax break, just like anybody else. They want something for free. Okay. And they want this and they want someone to go ahead and build the stadium for them. So it looks like it's kind of got the kibosh to it. It's not completely dead, but getting a deal done in the city of Chicago, as broke as that city is, I'm going to give you a prediction. That team will move out of the city completely before they build another stadium in the city limits, unless they completely redo Soldier Field. That's just my opinion. That's not anything that I know. They can't afford it. You could barely afford to live in that city, let alone asking them for $2.5 billion and just raise taxes everywhere else when there's people starving on the streets. It just ain't going to happen. It just can't happen. They'll move that team out of the city completely, or they're going to go to Arlington. I don't see them building it in Chicago. And I know that's going to be pretty unpopular opinion, especially to people that tune into the show that live in Chicago. But unfortunately, that's a realistic comment. Doesn't mean I hate them. I'm just giving you a realistic answer.
All right. I think that's it, brother. I wanted to ask you one more question. I'll save it for next time. I can't thank you enough for coming in here. This is a couple of things this week with the Porter and talking about the stadium. Of course, getting a little few lines for today's games. Of course, don't forget, you got the Lightning are playing at 12:30 against the Panthers, and also the Rays there at 1:35 from the Bronx against the Yankees. Harry, tell everyone where they can find the co-host of the Sports Web, Mr. Harry DeGreek, and where they can get any more of this, some lines.
You can find me Monday and Wednesdays right live on the Sports Web with Peter Blake. I'm the co-host. I haven't done an over-under in quite a long time. Personal reasons that are going on. I do want to give a shout out to some family members. Little moment of silence for my niece. Unfortunately, she passed away in Savannah. Very young lady. My mom's in the hospital right now. I love you, Mom. You know, it's been a little trying, but you know what? I still make a little bit of time for myself as well. Call it selfish, call it whatever you want, but I call it something for a little peace and senility.
Brother, hey, I love you here. I appreciate you coming in here. My mom is also doing it over at the ACLF. Hopefully she's getting better. We're going to get her home. And I know I kind of sorry to hear about your niece. Way too young. Yep. So sad to hear about. Yep. I give you that moment of silent meditation, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Harry DeGreek, Mr. Harry Berg, thanks for coming in here on a Sunday.
Hold on, before you let me go. Keep your bets low and your returns high. And please, yes, don't forget to bet your Lightning today. After this game, they're not going to be an underdog. Trust me when I tell you, okay?
Brother.
And Miami Heat, I do like this game plus 14.5. Don't take them at 14. It's got to be 14.5.
I like it.
By the way, there's a comment that just came up. I'd like to pull it up if you don't
Please.
mind.
Yes.
It's Jeff Stassi. Jeff does live up in Chicago. Jeff, what's up, brother? Nice to talk to you. Bears will go to Arlington. Moreland and eventually a Super Bowl in Chicago, and NHL players are going to be nuts this year. That's absolutely correct. You know, Jeff, I'd like to believe that they're going to go to Arlington. But, Jeff, I have a question. I'm going to wait for you to comment. Do you think that they're going to build another stadium if they don't go to Arlington in the city limits of Chicago? We'll wait.
That's a great question. And we'll wait, but I'll tell you what, we're waiting for Jeff to get back on that, Harry. We know Caleb Williams is going to Chicago, number one. No doubt there. Give me the other three quarterbacks behind Caleb in the order you see them.
Well, originally, before it actually happened, I thought Drake May, 3, 4, 5 months ago was going to be the top pick in the draft until I really started to watch this kid, Caleb Williams. He's the real deal. Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and who's the other one from that I'm missing?
Penix. Well, is it Penix or Nix?
Bo Nix, let me tell you something. He's not going to go in the first 3 rounds. Okay. Michael Penix Jr., he could be a top 10 player. However, with that being said, there's too much of a mark on him, primarily because of his age and his injuries. Okay. Tampa's going to have something to think about at 27 if he falls down there. I don't want to see him go grab him. I'd love to see Penix in a Buccaneer uniform. However, with that being said, they need to protect Baker Mayfield. But as the quarterbacks go, I think it's going to be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and believe it or not, the kid from Pittsburgh. Not Pittsburgh, from Michigan. Why is my brain not working? The Wolverines. You got to turn your mic on, Ray.
Oh, it's J.J. McCarthy. I'm sorry, brother. Do you see him going to Minnesota?
Yeah,
do you
JJ.
think Minnesota? JJ. Yeah, I mean, game manager. Had a great running game, had a good offensive line. Of course, Harbaugh gets it. Harbaugh now going out to coach the San Diego Superchargers? No, the Los Angeles Superchargers. But, yeah, J.J. McCarthy. And I'll tell you what, Harry, I didn't like Drake May because, and I used it as I had a very small sample size. I'd only seen him play 2 full games in college. In both games, one, App State beat them, the Mountaineers, and the second, App State took them to double overtime this last season, and Drake May pulled it out. But you can't blame a quarterback because he may not have a team around him. Otherwise, Caleb Williams might be going 3 instead of 1. I like the Drake May kid when I saw his history, his parents, his brothers. They are a family of athletes, responsible people, just doing it right. You put that pedigree in the fact that this kid's 6'4", he's got speed, he's got dangerous speed, and a good arm. And, yeah, he develops. He'll need 1 year, though, at the pro level. So whoever drafts Drake May, don't they kind of have to let him sit for a year and get a little soft?
Not a top 5 pick. You let him sit if you're a bottom of the first round or even a second round. And by the way, here's the answer, and I think people would be very interested. Jeff Stassi says, no way they build a new stadium in the city. 1, no room, like I said. 2, it's the cost. And the McCaskies will also have a casino if they build it in Arlington. So, ladies and gentlemen, just like I said, it all revolves around what? Gambling.
The money.
That's exactly what it is. Ray, thank you so much for having me on. I do have to jump out. I'm Harry the Greek. You can catch me Monday and Wednesdays right here on the Sports Web. Occasionally, my brother over here, Mr. Mr. Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy will join us as well. Don't forget to make those couple of plays. And guess what? As I always say, keep your bets low and your returns high. I'm Harry the Greek. See you later.
Harry, take care, brother. Good to see you.
Take care.
Brother, I tell you what, I hit that cap this morning. I'm like, you know something? It's going to be buzzing down here at the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. And I got to tell you all something. First of all, Ralph, I appreciate the kind words there for my opener. It is a great show. That's the exit that goes out. The exit we're taking there, when you see us coming around the corner there, the stadium's to the right. You don't quite see it, but you see the skyline of downtown St. Petersburg. I am going to, maybe not today, but I'm going to take that exact same turn and get what today's skyline looks like with the plethora, yes, it's the second time I've used that Leo word, of buildings that are shooting up. Just across the street, they laid the foundation for a new 1,000-car parking garage, mixed-use type of apartments and condominiums, and a hotel, which is right across the central from the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. And, of course, the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill is just across First Street South, of course, from Tropicana Field and the future stadium for your Tampa Bay Rays. That's some great stuff. Jeff Stasi, thanks for coming in here this morning. I appreciate that. And, yeah, I'll tell you what, it's been a crazy week, and there's been so much news. Caitlin Clark, if you're a reporter and you're covering, and I get it, this guy, I wish I had the guy's name. I actually had him in my notes. I left my notes at home. But the reporter, of course, Caitlin Clark's drafted #1 overall there in Indianapolis, of course, for the WNBA after the outstanding, record-breaking, historical career she had in college. And he says to her, of course, everyone knows that this is her thing, right? It's at the heart. I can't even hardly do the heart. And that's kind of it's a lot of people's thing, but it's kind of been Caitlin Clark's thing. And then the reporter actually has the nerve to give her one of these and say, if you do this more for me, then we're going to get along just fine. And it's weird because I've been so happy. I was so happy, and I talked about this when I was down here covering March Madness. I was so excited this year that the ladies NCAA was actually more entertaining to me than the men's, even though I love Danny Hurley and I love what UConn going for that second straight title, and they get it. But I love the games we had going. I actually love to play because it's more disciplined, more offense, defense, inside out, inside out. We're starting to see that when the big men coming back to the league, but it's with WNBA and then college NCAA women's basketball. Morning, beautiful Buccaneer shirt, everybody. How are you? So, thank you. So I liked it. So when you draft Caitlin Clark #1 overall, you can't talk like that to her. Talk with her all right. Give me a second, y'all. Let's do this. Where's it at? Right back after this message from Cup of Ray. All right, I'm back. I got a seat. This is how. Oh, this is a root shot. I'm gonna stay with this shot. This was, of course, I'm out here running in front of the sidewalk in front of the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, where Peter Blake, J.C. Allen, Blake Anthony, myself, Derek Jones, so many people. We've done so many shows out here, and it was even back before they had all this development going on, and way before Tampa Bay. But of course, Coach Ferg down here at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, locking it down. And I'm right here on the sidewalk where we did so many shows. And of course, y'all can go back and look at our socials, and you'll see so many pictures of Peter and I and Derek and Blake, and we're all standing out here. Of course, if you've been out to Ferg's here to see a Rays game, chances are you've ran into my next guest. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on right now. We're going to talk a little bit of Rays baseball, maybe a little bit of traveling or softball leagues, because I'm sure he's playing in one of those tournaments this weekend. Go ahead and bring to the show Mr. Alex Unster. Alex, how are you, my friend?
How you doing, man? Thank you, as always, for the invite. It's always much appreciated, as always. And What else do we start the show with? Let's talk about a little bit of Rays baseball and some Lightning hockey, because today starts playoff hockey. One of my also favorite times of the year. It's not always about Rays baseball. But Peter, I said Peter, but Ray, Peter's like, what the heck? But Ray, let's talk about the Rays so far this year. So the Rays pulled off a 10th inning victory yesterday against the Yankees, another pitching duel. Eflin went out there and did Eflin things yesterday. I was very impressed with what I'm seeing by him. But Ray, I wanted to ask you this morning, my friend, your thoughts on this offense and this struggling offense. It was great to see Cabby. I've mentioned him quite a few times. I call him Cabby for short. But it was great to see him coming through extra inning with that RBI double to get the Rays essentially ahead. They scored an extra run, just a little bit of cushion. It was really good to see for once the bullpen come out, close the game out, not give up runs. I think Jason Adam came out and closed that game out. But Ray, talking for a minute about this Tampa Bay offense, are you a little concerned because, you see guys like Randy Arozarena who's striking out like crazy. Yandy Diaz is not the Yandy that we all know. Although I think Randy makes me more mad than anybody because Randy is so much better than what he's been showing this year. Are you a little concerned with this Tampa Bay offense, and what do you think could be improved on the offensive side?
Well, it's a great question, and it feels like a trick question because it is still early in the year. We're still only in mid-May, of course, just paid our taxes. But one thing we can't do, Alex, is we can't compare the offensive start to last season's offensive start, where we start off 13-0, right? Because
right.
I think of all besides the 2020, 2008, making the World Series in the bubble there in 2020, and all the great things that have happened with this Rays squad and how they continually put a team out there on the field year in and year out that competes. Last year's was just astronomical. Now, I don't think we're down on them so far this year just because their offensive numbers are down. It's been a little bit disturbing. But then also, do you think that the Rays, how do we hold the Yankees to no runs in the first 5.5 in the game Friday night? And then yesterday we hold them to zero run or to 1 run over 10 innings. The offensive, it seems to be a lot of teams are struggling here and there, no?
Yeah, and here's what I was going to say. I see a lot of people on the Rays side, Rays fans bashing Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is struggling too right now. He was like, I think it was like 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts yesterday. You are right about that. I didn't really think about that really deep into it, but there are a lot of big leaguers going into this season really struggling. But I guess here's what I preach on all these podcasts that I joined. And actually, if you have the opportunity, I actually just started joining a weekday podcast on Thursdays with a bunch of great gentlemen. Just started out this week. We spent like an hour just talking all Rays baseball. Great. A lot of fun. People just like you, Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, Peter Blake, and of course Harry the Greek. All y'all have inspired me to do this kind of thing. But we sat down for an hour, throwing out a bunch of stuff about this Tampa Bay Rays offense and defense team overall. And I think what we're looking at is just a rebuilding team. I went into it last year, the off season, going into this season. I said, I don't know what's going to happen this year, Ray. A lot of unanswered questions. I was speaking about why I feel like Stu could have went out and got a bigger piece for the rotation. You saw that the market was a little low this off season. You got guys like, I mentioned his name a lot, and I'll do it again. Look at Jordan Montgomery, went to the Diamondbacks for under $10 million. That could have been like a great bargain for the Rays, knowing the fact that we're going into the season, not having our full strength of starting rotation with Shane McClanahan being out, Jeffrey Springs still being out, Rasmussen still being out. Those are just 3 big arms alone that we can sit there and talk about how great they are in that rotation. But I'm happy with what I'm seeing out of this team. Maybe not on the offensive side, but hats off to our bullpen to keep the Yankees, our pitching, not even just our bullpen. Even Eflin looked fantastic yesterday. Hats off to this pitching staff yesterday and Kyle Snyder doing Kyle Snyder things with this pitching staff and keeping the Yankees. Anytime you go into the Bronx and you can shut out the Yankees, that's a big win. That's a big win.
Oh, I tell you what, good thing they got that insurance run in the top of the 10th too, because Peter,
Ray.
No, brother, but let me ask you this. Going back to the whole thing about the success in 2023 and, of course, or 24, but you talked about Rasmussen. We know about Jeffrey Springs. We know about Sugar Shane, Boz. We know about, Taj. Do we knew that this pitching rotation or the pitching is going to get stronger as the season goes on? We never want to call it a red shirt year. They're getting a stadium. They got it approved. Mayor Welch is just around the corner here. He's probably over there stamping papers right now. Build a stadium. Chunk, build a stadium. Chunk, and they're doing their thing. Have the Rays?
And I can't wait.
I was going to say, have the Rays earned enough respect in the bank of or collateral in the bank of respect that all the things they continue to do, that they could sit on their laurels for 1 year with a team that still seems to be competing here and there and in the middle of the American League East, still early here in April, and wait for these pitchers to get healthy? Or does Stu Sternberg, even though the stadium they haven't broken shovels yet, does he have to go out and continue to get these pitchers to make the city or the Tampa Bay area continue to be interested in these Rays? Or is just the fact that we still have a great team with some pitchers coming back? Can we see where we go through this? Is that a good thing? Or are Rays fans going to have agita here so far in 2024, Alex?
And Ray, that's a big thing I talked about on this podcast Thursday, and we were talking about that. In the long term, what does Stu do to keep the fans in the presence until the stadium is done? I'm going to tell you two things that I think are going to happen based off everything I know. And if you know me, I'm a diehard Rays fan, so I pay attention to everything that I can. To keep the Rays fans in the ballpark as much as possible until the stadium is done, number one, you have to extend Arozarena regardless of what he's doing right now. He's going to come around. Arozarena being a season ticket holder in 141 and Randy Land, it's a big difference in that ballpark. And I know there's not a lot that I personally like about the ballpark. I'm happy to get a new ballpark. I love the Trop just because, of the nice AC and, Florida weather in the summer. It doesn't always cooperate really well. But
I'll tell you what, Alex, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, but I got it while you're on this. I just love the fact that this is only the second year that we've had that ring around the outfield open where we can go in, and it's become a meeting place, a place to be, a place to be seen, and a place to see. And so, we got us a brand new Tropicana field. For so many years, it was a concrete mausoleum. Now, I worked there. I worked for Rays for fan photography for several years, and it was so cool in the summer. It's July, but you're leaning on cool concrete. But it didn't have a whole lot of character. They gave us center field street, or they were doing this. But then when they opened up that outfield all the way around, I'm like, this is a whole new stadium. And suddenly I'm like, you can get 10 more years out of this stadium. But the thing about it is that if you're going to keep the Rays here in St. Pete, and I'm looking across at this 15-story building going up and a footer laid over here, that you actually run the risk of not developing it fast enough. Then maybe you're like in the city of Chicago, like Harry's talking about, where you can't afford to build a stadium here anymore because the cost per square foot is just too much. But I do like the character that the Tropicana field has now. But go ahead, Alex. I apologize for interrupting you.
I do, and I do too. I like the Trop. I kind of like the location of it. It's kind of centered off 275 and I-75, I-175. Just great location. Me personally, now I live in Pinellas County, so I can't speak for Tampa fans. I used to live in Tampa. I made the drive. Now, granted, I'm a diehard Rays fan, so I guess maybe I make a little bit more effort. I don't mean that in a bad way. But I do believe that if you want to get to the games, you're going to get to the games. But talking about your original thing, Ray, what do the Rays have to do in the long term till the stadium is done to keep the fans? Number one, you're going to extend a Randy Arozarena. You're not going to let him go, regardless of what's happening right now. The early season struggles, I believe he's going to come around. Randy does Randy things. He's going to come around. Guys like Yandy Diaz, I love Yandy. What Yandy does and brings to the lineup and to the ball club is absolutely amazing. I just grabbed his jersey just because I love him so much. Great guy in the lineup, regardless of his struggles. But I'm going to say this about the stadium ordeal, and I spoke about this on Peter's show, I think a week or two ago. Once the stadium is done, and I spoke about this on my podcast too with these awesome new gentlemen, and in my opinion now my good friends, I believe this is what's going to happen. When the stadium is done and it is official, and you got shovels in that dirt, right? You are going to build your fan base back. I'm going to tell you why that is. Because, and I spoke about this on Peter's show, I'm going to go ahead and say it on your show as well, my good friend. The problem is that Rays fans have been played for seasons or years upon years upon years. I mentioned this before. 1 minute we're going to go to Montreal. Next minute it's Nashville. Next minute it's a split city ordeal. Rays fans have been played for so many years. Hence the reason why I believe we're also one of the highest TV markets, because I don't believe the fans. And I'm not making excuses. If you're a fan, you're a fan. I'm a fan. I mean, I got season tickets for God's sake, and I'm so glad I did. It's so much fun to be at the Trop as much as I can. But if you are a Rays fan, you're still going to go to the games regardless of what Stu does. But I really do believe that once they are here to stay, they are here to stay, and you're going to get your fans back in that stadium. I think a new ball club, or not a ball club. Oh, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you go. I thought I lost you. I think a new ballpark is really going to help the atmosphere of it. It's an enclosed ballpark. If they stick with that, that's very nice. So you won't lose the nice 72-degree play out in the rain type ordeal, which is going to be really nice for St. Pete. And don't forget, St. Pete is also booming on the on the map right now. St. Pete's blowing up like it's crazy. I know. Look at all the infrastructure they're redoing. I think that's going to help, by the way, get into the stadium. If you've noticed 275, they're adding express lanes, which is also great. They're going to build the new Howard Franklin Bridge, which is also going to help getting down to the Trop. So there's so many things that are going to be in effect to make it easier to get to the Trop. So I really think that once the stadium is done, and by the time the stadium is done, the infrastructure of 275 is going to be much better to smooth down and get down to the Trop. And of course, you're going to have a new ballpark. And anytime you have a new ballpark, I truly believe in St. Pete. Can't speak for all stadiums because look what happened in Miami. And I had the opportunity to visit Lone Depot Ballpark a couple weeks ago when I was in Miami for work. But it's a beautiful ballpark, but so disappointing to see how empty that stadium still is, especially because Miami's population is out of control. Right. But I think the Rays organization and the Rays fan base is different. I don't care. Rays have a massive fan base, but they have a really bad owner. So going into what you asked me initially, Ray, what do the Rays have to do? You're going to extend to Randy. I want to see that happen this year. What do the Rays have to do to keep their fan base until that new opening ballpark, that beautiful opening ballpark in rising downtown St. Pete, which you are, I see you are there right now, is always representing the Tampa Bay sports community. Appreciate you, brother.
And stadium's that way.
Oh, yeah. And I just really think you got to extend a long-term player. Stop trading our players away. I agree with that one.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Peter talks about it.
Well, I'm sorry. I'll cut you off there. I totally agree. And maybe even just these stats being down here in the beginning of the season. I mean, if we'd have had to give Randy Arozarena, he's going to get paid based on partly on how he came in off the WBC last season, led this team to an historic beginning, and then let Andy get comfortable and let the rest of the team get comfortable. But I think that you do. I think that would go a long way in establishing with the Tampa Bay Rays fans who talk about an owner that doesn't lets a Longoria go or lets a Carl Crawford go or trades away a David Price or So I think that you keep Arozarena. Also, you're going to continue to get those pitchers healthy as we go through the season. And let's be honest, I mean, now that Stu knew all along he had a deal in place here. I mean, he wanted to, you talked about it, half here, half Montreal. Let's go to Ybor. Let's go to Channelside. Let's see if we can build it over in the cow pastures of Eastern Tampa, Lakeland. And at the end of the deal, he knew what he had here. But that being said, come August, maybe September, middle of September, if you're in contention, you better be a buyer, Stu Sternberg, because now that you're getting your new stadium, you've got to shut. And I've agreed. I've never said you and Peter or anyone else was wrong in letting these players go. It's just that they've continued year in and year out to have one of the best teams in the American League. So I'm like, whatever they're doing, the recipe works. But yet, now that you've got your new stadium, you've got to pick your pillar pieces, your mainstays of your team, and give them contracts. Hey, Tim.
And two things to add to that, Ray. You kind of just made a really, really, really good point about this, about, the long term. That's the thing about this Tampa Bay Rays team. We're always short. Hats off to the Rays. Anytime you can make a 5-season straight playoff appearance with the payroll that we have. I mean, look at the Yankees. Look at the Yankees payroll last year and look at what we did. And they were on the bottom of the division list. I think they ended up in last place, did they not? Or pretty close to it.
Well, the Red Sox, but
regardless regardless is this team is always short that one piece. Which when I went to the offseason and I saw a little bit of a roster flip, I saw Luke Raley get traded. I thought that was a good move. No offense. I saw Tyler Glasnow get traded. Even I was not at first. I was offensive to that, regardless of the fact that you can't predict what he's going to do in a Dodger uniform, and he's looking great right now so far. Hopefully, he sticks to that. I'll never wish bad on Tyler Glasnow. Hats off to him for a great start in his career in a Dodger uniform so far. But I like what I see in guys like Pepio and all these little small trades. Look at Cabby lights out. Look at Rosario hitting the ball like it's crazy, coming in with little bloop singles and hitting up walk-off wins. And another guy that we don't talk about that much, Harold Ramirez. Look at the weight he's lost. Look at the speed he's gained. Jose Siri, another guy in the lineup, not hitting the best right now, but his speeds, he's probably out or almost 10 stolen bases on the season. That produced 5 runs on the scoreboard overall. It's these small little things that this Tampa Bay Rays team does to pull off wins. I just think there's a couple twerks that need to be made. That bullpen is one of them. And I want to ask you a question.
I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Things last year, the guy had a 25-inning scoreless streak, sets a record for the Rays. You know what I'm talking about. He's had a couple of fumbles this year, and he fumbled one again the other night. Is Pete Fairbanks – is he in any trouble? Is Kevin Cash looking for another receiver closer that could step in there, or is it just he's having an off week?
And I was getting ready to ask you a big question about the pitching. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, but I'm going to go to your question first, and I'm going to answer that question for you. Pete Fairbanks, I didn't see him enough in spring training. This spring training, I was a little disappointed, and I'm not using that as an excuse because Pete Fairbanks has some lights out stuff. I mean, he's came in clutch over the past couple years in some very big moments, and I'm not concerned about Pete Fairbanks. I believe he's going to come around. It sucks that he's given us, think about this, guys. Think about this, Rays fans. It's 8 outs. 8 outs. 8 outs on Pete Fairbanks' side, 2 on one game and 3 on the other 2 is the difference between 2 Rays wins and being in first place with the Yankees right now. Think about that for a minute. Just that alone is very frustrating to think about. But I'm confident in Pete Fairbanks. I think he's going to come around. I think you keep him in that role. Don't deteriorate the guy on so early in the season. Guys are going to make mistakes. I don't see when Pete Fairbanks threw that one wild pitch to essentially cost us the one game in Colorado, which was so unfortunate. Oh, no, not Colorado. Against this last series. It was so unfortunate the way we lost. Yep, it was so unfortunate the way we lost that game. But it happens. I don't see anybody talking about how Randy consistently strikes out and batting under 200. I don't see anybody talking about how Yachty's struggling. We always like to point the blame at the one reason why we lost. Now, I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead, Alex.
You were talking about pitching. What is your thoughts? And I think this is where this Rays team really struggles. And I thought about this, especially game 1 loss against the Yankees, when Davinsky blew the game, when he gave up that 3-run bomb to Juan Soto, which essentially put them out of reach. Yeah. I am so tired of this Tampa Bay Rays team basing themselves off analytics. Let me tell you what I mean by that.
Go ahead.
I watched Kevin Cash pull Tyler Alexander out of that game at 80 pitches. He pulled Eflin yesterday, dealing no hits, 80 pitches on the dot. You are literally showing us analytics at its point. I mean, literally, there's no reason to absolutely pull Eflin, not even Alexander, because I'll give Cash that. Alexander isn't really a full-time starter because he's just going into that role this season. But to pull Eflin out at exactly 80 pitches on the dot and go into that bullpen so early, which still, regardless, hats off to the bullpen yesterday for shutting the Yankees out. Yeah. But still, why are we giving guys a limit and damaging the bullpen? I would have loved to see Eflin go 2 more pitches, give it up to 100 pitches. But what I don't understand about the whole analytics thing is, but you'll let Davinsky go in the game long enough to completely wipe the game out of reach. Tell me how that makes sense. I just don't get it.
The thing is, the Rays and Kevin, and I think that this should be on somebody's gravestone someday. Hopefully, a long, long time from now, someone in this organization. They let you know where their sausage is made. Back when they pull Blake Snell in the 6th inning against the Dodgers, right? I mean, he was still spitting.
He was dealing.
He was dealing hard. And of course, yesterday I think Zach did actually have 2 hits before he goes out. But you were saying he was scoreless. It was still in the Bronx, scoreless against the Yankees. But here's the thing about these Rays, which drives me crazy, but it's also part of their DNA. You're going to get your starters for so many pitches. Because yesterday I thought the exact same thing as you, Alex. I'm like every other Rays fan here in Tampa Bay. I'm like, is this the game where Eflin just gets left in and gets the full game? I mean, this could be the game, right? Because he's definitely the ace of this staff right now, and he's out there in the Bronx. But no, he goes right to his thing. I think that's probably a 50-50 good or bad thing. It's good consistently that his pitchers know what's expected of them. The young guys know they're to be ready to come up. It's part of how the Rays continuously have a great team with the lowest payroll because you got these dogs that know the score. But also it's a bad thing because I think we go back. I'm not saying we beat the Dodgers back in 2020 if Snell stays in. I'm not saying Eflin doesn't give up the game-winning run yesterday to the Yankees, but you had 2 starting pitchers who are basically still spitting and you pull them out. Analytics can drive you crazy, but I would say, Alex, in the last 5 years, the proof is in the pudding and the record that these Rays continually have.
And I get it, but like I'm not going to compare past seasons. I get the 2020 World Series and what's done is done, and that still sucks. I couldn't believe to this day when Kevin Cash pulled Snell out of that game. That still boggles my mind to this day. But here's the reason why I'm complaining about it yesterday. You're already taxing that bullpen like it's nothing. You gotta rest that bullpen. Give Eflin a couple more innings, at least another inning, see what he does. Granted, hats off to Poche. He came around yesterday. Poche is one of those guys that are in and out. Jason Adam came in and threw some lights out stuff. So these little small arms did come in yesterday and clutch, but I would like to see them get a little bit more of a break. Oh, who's that behind you?
Oh, DJ Al, what's up, my man? I got to tell you, this is my guy. This is my sound guy, Mr. Al McTapp. Hey, let me tell you something. I was just about to tell Alex, the worst thing about being out here on a game day with the Lightning on at 12:30 and the Rays on at 1:35 is I just started to smell the best of the Bay wings that Coach has on in there. Man, it's already starting to smell like heaven out here. I'd rather have a beer, but yeah, no, we're good. All right, Al. Good to see you. He's got his Lightning shirt on, too. This is my guy right here. Oh, you want to bring it in here? Let him say it. I'll keep it clean. It's Peter's Facebook. Oh, there you go. You saw that. I'll see you in a minute, brother. Hey, Alex. I was going to say. Go ahead. Go on.
No.
Finish your thought. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No. I want to talk about some hockey before I go. I don't know how much time you have. I can sit here and talk Rays baseball all day.
No, I was going to
let's talk about the Lightning real quick.
Yes, please. Let's talk about this. Go.
It is playoff hockey. Here the Bolts are again. In another playoff run again. Of course, we have to play a state rival and the Florida Panthers. The Panthers are tough. But I did hear Harry's comments, and I agree with him. I think the Lightning are going into the 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 playoffs with a little bit of an edge over the Panthers. They're looking hot. You're getting some healthy guys back. If the Lightning can go into round 2, there's a good possibility we'll get to see Sergei back on the ice. But, I'm really confident in this Lightning team. They look really good. How about Kucherov having the Kucherov season that he's had, record-breaking seasons for himself as an individual? Hats off to him. I believe he got that 100 points at the end. I was so happy to see that happen for him.
Did you see Cooper's post-game presser the other night after Kucherov?
I did not, brother.
He says that after the game, he goes, takes his fine suit back to the locker room, and he said on his phone the first text he'd gotten was from Wayne Gretzky, the great one, talking about the accomplishment that Cooch had there. And I mean, this is just a team. Maybe the Lightning's new motto is just, we're the team. Used to, heart and hustle across the street, be the Thunder, raise up. Maybe it's just we're the team that just can't, the team that just doesn't know how to quit, because they bring in a new, and Duclair. You got Duclair on this team now, and bring him in. He's been lighting on fire. And the last time I saw Duclair playing was the last time we were in the playoffs against those Panthers 2 years ago, and Duclair was running for them and looking solid. Now he's on our team. So Brisebois just continues to put a team together, Alex.
And you talk about Anthony Duclair. That's got to be one of my next to Brandon Hagel. That's got to be one of my favorite mid-season acquisitions. What did Duclair has brought to this team in the latter half of the season is nothing short of amazing. But like I said, hats off to Kucherov for what he has done for this team and leading this team in some record-breaking numbers. Of course, Steven Stamkos doing Steven Stamkos things, awesome. Which, by the way, I really would love to see them hurry up and give him his extension. I'm not sure the story on that yet, and we'll get to that in the off season. But I'm really confident in this team. If we can make it into round 2, we'll have the opportunity to get Mikhail Sergachev back on the ice. He was in a full playing practice uniform yesterday. He did get out of that no-touch uniform last week. So if we can get Sergey back on the ice before round 2, that'd be great. But let's focus on the Panthers. Hopefully, Vasi's a little bit better in net. I know people are going to take those last couple games and be all worried, but I'm really not worried. When it comes to the playoff hockey Lightning team that we know, it's a 100% different team. But if we could just keep doing what we've done all season, guys like, of course, Kucherov, Stamkos, Anthony Duclair, Brandon Hagel, just these small guys, Victor had been stepping up a little bit more. If these small guys can do these little things on the ice, I think that the Bolts have a decent chance to go pretty far, if not pretty deep into the Stanley Cup Finals.
The thing I like about it, Alex, is that we've seen the Lightning when they've went into the playoffs as the President's Cup winners. We've seen them going in with Vasi and everybody getting the awards. We saw them go into the playoffs limping and then losing the first round to the Columbus Blue Jackets when Torts was still back there a few years ago. This year with this team, you talk about that late season edition of Duclair, but as you've got a veteran-led team, you're bringing in somebody new, and that's why. And I talked about the Rays being buyers at the deadline here come September, October, or September, when we got all our pitchers. Sugar Shane's not back. McClanahan will probably be for 2025, but I think that you've got the kind of locker room now that you can go out and you can bring in a veteran bat or bring in a veteran of some World Series, somebody who maybe the Rays can find that could come and add depth to a catcher's position or maybe depth at another position on the field, even a utility man. But it's more to bring them in and continue to build that camaraderie in the locker room. And maybe the young guys who don't know what to expect come playoff time, they can look to this guy and go, hey, this guy's been there how many times? He knows. So, I mean, there is something to be said for being buyers. The Lightning did, and Duclair comes, and they've obviously used it to their advantage going into these playoffs, haven't they?
Yep, and you talk about the Rays for a moment, and I didn't even get to that comment you made about the mid-season acquisition and what do I see them doing after the All-Star break and, of course, the trade deadline. I think it's really going to come down to where this team is at that point in time. I really went into the season talking about it a lot, and I really think this is a get healthy season. And I talked about this a lot. Can you imagine for a second, and then I'll finish my topic of the mid-season acquisitions. Can you imagine going into 2025, Zach Eflin will be on his final 3-year deal with the Rays. You'll have Shane McClanahan on your opening day starter, behind Zach Eflin, a Savali looking the way Savali has looked. And then you get Taj and Jeffrey Springs, just those 5 alone as your starting rotation. Look out, Major League Baseball. If those 5 can look the way that we know they can look, oh my God, you're talking about an absolutely insane top 5 rotation. But talking about this season, it's going to come down to where the Rays are at the trade deadline. Are we above 500? Are we sitting X amount of spots behind, at least in the wild card spot? I don't think, based off what I see, that this is a division winning team. But hey, the Rays have shocked me. The Rays have done things that, and that's the thing I will say about this front office, is the Rays have surprised a lot of people over these X amount of years with one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. people have doubted us out. Now, granted, I want to see a World Series win, and I get it. I'm with you guys. We are always that 1 or 2 piece short of making that extra push, which is what drives me nuts about Stu Sternberg. I know Peter has mentioned it several times. I know many great podcasts or Tampa Bay leaders just like yourself that do this every week have said it many times, or shows, not podcasts, but shows that you guys have talked about Stu being that one guy short, rather it's a right or left hand DH batter, or rather it's a pitcher like last year, the last 2 seasons. How did the Rays go out? Could not hit. We got 1 run in 4 games, knocked out in the first game of the wild card. 100-win season, completely wasted. I was not mad when the Rays did a little bit of a roster flip. People were mad. Trading away Luke Raley. I wasn't mad at that. Luke Raley didn't really hit as a Ray. He was a great right fielder, but Luke Raley didn't get enough time. I was happy to see them get Luke Raley traded away and get some space for other bigger guys. Now look at what happened. Look at a guy like Ahmed Rosario playing some right field. Josh should get ready to come back. Josh Lowe's already hitting up his rehab assignments, and I believe he was 2 for 4 yesterday or the day before that. Already getting back caught up in rehab. Expected to be back within a week or 2. Get Josh Lowe back in there. You got Ahmed Rosario, like I mentioned. You got Harold Ramirez. Kind of doing small things, these small little acquisitions that this Tampa Bay Rays team has always done, that I think it's going to put this team over the top in the long term. But you ask, what do we do at that deadline?
Yes.
Is it pitching? Is it hitting? Don't know, man, but we will see. I'm still confident that this is a division winning team.
I'm going to leave you with this, Alex. Alex, I'm going to leave you with one question. But first of all, I saw your post today. Tell everyone what you got going on today about these tickets and your group, which, by the way, thanks for the invitation.
I didn't really talk about it too. I didn't really talk about it too much on post, but I'll do it. Sure, why not? So, as I've mentioned, I am a season ticket holder, and just something I do on my heart. And actually, I heard you mention it to Harry, and I have done it 10 times more this season. Just to the Tigers series alone, I have 8 people going Monday, 5 people going Tuesday, and 2 people going Wednesday. I do give these out nonstop. Why? It's just something on my heart. I love to give back to the community. I love to see people being able to go to the ballpark. You'd be surprised how many people don't get to or have the opportunity to go to a Rays game. I've brought many families. I've given some first responders a couple of them out this season.
Beautiful.
Actually was able to bless a fire chief and his 4 kids, or 3 boys, to the game. So they'll be going, I think they're going this next homestand. I give them out so much. But guys, please join my Rays page. If Harry does, or not Harry, but if Ray doesn't mind, I'll send him a link if he wants to share it. But it's a lot of fun. I do giveaways. It's just something on my heart that I do, and bringing people to the ballpark is a passion. As you can see, I am a diehard Rays fan, and obviously maybe it shows. But yeah, man, to answer your question, it's just something on my heart. I did it last season. It meant a lot to me, and it's just something that was placed on my heart to bring people to the ballpark.
Brother, and
I don't make no profit. I don't make no profit.
People need to realize.
I don't ask for.
There's no bait and switch here. There's no. You gotta. Well, I mean, wait. I think for the tickets moving heretofore for the rest of the 24 season, didn't you actually say that they have to actually share and like the Cup of Ray webpage?
Yeah. So I do share. I do share my page out. I do want people to know about it. Yes. I only do that because I want people to know about it. I want to do the very best impact I can and bring people back at that ballpark.
Yes, sir.
I want our fan base back. That is the only reason why I do it.
Brother, we're coming.
Of course, people truly don't have. And I will say this: times are hard, and I've mentioned this many times in other shows as well. Times are hard, and I get it. And even Peter has preached on it. And Peter's a good friend of mine now. He's kind of becoming a mentor too. Peter's mentioned many times on his show. Times are hard, and just. That's the reason why he does his show alone, is just to get people off their minds, off the everyday world. We just love to come in here and talk sports and talk whatever it is. In my case, that's his thing. My case is just to simply bring people to the ballpark,
yes,
get their minds off X, Y, and Z for a couple hours, and you'd be surprised. People truly can't afford it. And I get it. It's hard. But that is why I do what I do. It's not for me. It's for all people, just like the family of 4 that's going this week, and just like the 10 people are going on this next Tiger series starting Monday, which I'm excited about. I really think that the Rays are going to win today, pull off a series win against the Yankees, Savali on the mound, and then go back home for a few days and take on the Tigers, which, by the way, before I go, I don't want to talk all about me because I don't do that. Before I go, how about some surprising teams this year that are hot before I go with MLB? How about the KC? KC's looking hot. Pittsburgh is looking very hot.
Pirates, even the Cincinnati Reds, they look like they've been doing
the Cincinnati Reds.
And you know what? Mostly National League, though, Alex. I talked about this on the show that you and I were on with Peter Blake in the Sports Lab a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, the Rays were at number 22. I haven't seen it so far this week, but in last week's rankings overall, taking into account all the splits, the Rays were number 22. But there was only one other American League team, or there was 5 teams ahead of them, but only one in the East, that being the Yankees, who were on a bit of a tear with Soto and some of the things they're doing. But I would pose also, I'm just happy that the Dodgers aren't running away with it automatically, even though Ohtani's seeming to wake up and stuff like that. So I'm more keeping an eye on the teams that should have been way out there and aren't. But there are some teams that you didn't expect much from that suddenly in 2024 are just powerhouses.
And that's what happened with teams like the O's and the Diamondbacks. Look at the Diamondbacks last year. They made a good run, even though they got knocked out in round 1. But it was happy to see them back on the map for once. It's really good to see these small market teams, make a push. And it just shows you one thing. Money does not buy winning baseball. It truly is about who you have in that locker room, who's leading X, Y, and Z. Even the Rays have had to face a lot of stuff over the last year with everything that happened with who not being in the ball club.
Yeah, imagine that a team I mean, that was your cornerstone of your team. That was the guy, and he was a prodigy. And not many teams can. I mean, the Yankees will sign $1 billion payroll, and half the guys will be injured all season. That's a different thing. But when you're talking about what the Rays went through with he whose name we don't mention, and the things that are going on now, it's like the Rays are like, okay, let's just go. And I think it's because you utilize that farm system. You utilize what they do. And then I hate to say it, Alex, because we do get bothered by it in these games, but that's what you do when you do those analytics. You find those diamonds in the rough. This guy's, he's got a 0.5% batting points higher against lefties on Saturdays, and then all of a sudden you find Kevin Cash brings the guy in there and he's only starting him against left-hand pitcher on Saturdays because, the Rays don't have that $1 trillion salary, so we can afford to dabble with some of these younger guys. But then the problem with that is you're going to see a problem like yesterday. You get a pop-up in shallow right field, and you got your shortstop running out, and you got your right fielder running in, and you're like, the shortstop should have known to cut it off, let the right fielder take it on a run, because even if he doesn't catch it, he's prepared for the throw, but it would have been an easy out. So when you bring in the youth and you're kind of mixing some things around, you take away a team like the Yankees who they've been together all season. It's a starting 9 or a starting 8 with your pitcher. And so, I mean, you're going to have your bumps, but so far in 2024, the bumps have been minor and the Rays are still hanging in there. So we're excited.
And I think that's where the Rays slightly miss out on is a little bit more of a veteran presence, which is why it's not all about we'll just use Evan Longoria, right? I'm just going to use that name because when Evan left, I was like, my heart sunk when Evan left. When I found out that trade got happened, I know where I was at and everything. But even a guy like Evan Longoria can still have a struggling year batting out around 200 example. We can just use that as an example. But it doesn't matter. Evan Longoria had that veteran presence, that leadership in that locker room, that he has the ability to bring a player up, and that's where the Rays slack. Rays don't really have that. Randy's really the only long-term player that's really left. It really is. There's really no veteran full-time presence in that locker room. Everybody else is which does make this organization so special, I guess, is you can take a bunch of minor league players or a bunch of no-name players like Ahmad Rosario, a guy that really didn't really hear about him, and now he's going into the Tampa Bay Rays team, breaking all types of – he's leading the way. Basically, Ahmad Rosario is leading this offense. No offense, he is. And next to Cabby, Cabby wasn't really doing, and that's his nickname I give him, but he wasn't really doing anything before either. And he comes into the lineup and he wins the game yesterday for the Rays, essentially. It's just these small little guys, but I still want some veteran presence because that's what this team lacks when it comes to the playoffs and when it comes to when it matters the most. Playoffs. The Rays can win. Sorry, go ahead. I'm going to end with this thought, though.
Give me a thought because I'm going to go get you out of here. I appreciate you coming in, and I got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you.
The Rays can go out and win 100 wins, but it doesn't matter when you don't have that veteran presence to lead, especially the playoffs. The playoffs are a totally different atmosphere. You can't expect a bunch of new major leaguers, in my opinion, I like to call them. I don't like to say minor leaguers, but new major leaguers. You need that presence for that playoff vibe. It's 100% different atmosphere. So if we can fix that, guys, if we can pitch our pitching, or fix our pitching, and fix these little quirks that we have, I think this Tampa Bay Rays team has a potential, even this season, regardless of the injuries, and hopefully some come back. Hopefully we make that deadline move if we need to, and see where we are in July going into August at the deadline. But it would be nice to see where this Tampa Bay Rays defense or this team is towards the middle of the season, towards the trade deadline.
Thank you, brother. Have a great day. Go Rays, go Lightning. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Go Rays and go Bolts. It's playoff hockey. Don't forget about the Bolts today. They play. Puck drop is under an hour and a half away. I see behind you that I feel like you're about to go drink yourself a beer. No, I'm just kidding. Don't listen to me. But please make sure you enjoy yourself out there in beautiful downtown St. Pete, which I'm sure that's where you are at right now. And as always, my good friend, Ray Kennedy, I appreciate you, my friend. And as always, thank you guys so much for having me. And thank you, Peter. I know you're probably watching. Thank you, and Harry, and all y'all great people for always having me.
Alex, take care, brother.
You too, buddy.
Hey, who y'all with? Just cleaning up the burg down here today? Oh, Keep Pinellas Beautiful? Is that an organization?
They sponsored it. So Sands Market organized it.
Yes, Sands Market. Thank you. Sands Market. I want to give them a shout out. I saw all the whole group of young people and walking. They got more coming still. They've all got bags. They seem to be picking up trash around down here, which happens when you have a city with high rises and professional baseball teams. And Keep Pinellas Beautiful. They're down here picking that up on a Saturday, Sunday, having it, locking it down as we're getting ready again for the 12:30 puck drop between the Lightning and the Panthers, and of course the 1:35 start out there in the Bronx between the Rays and the Yankees, the Stankies. Between those stinking Panthers and the New York Stankies. I had some great comments in here. Mike Stover, I know Mike's a Miami guy. Heat and Lightning. I wanted to ask Alex. Alex talked about he was just in Miami at the new stadium down there, and how sad it was with Derek Jeter, the captain wasn't able to put it together with the Marlins team. And I go back to the mid to late 90s when Kurt Abbott was playing shortstop and third base on that championship team back in, oh my gosh, was it 97? But, the Marlins have actually won that World Series ring. But you go down and look at the way they built their stadium, where they did, even with the centralized, with more of a community around them, it's not hard to get to. You're not going to put it out on South Beach, but even where the stadium's placed now, it should be still very accessible for all points, north, south, east, and west that are down there in Miami. But, you talk about your stadium here in Pinellas County for the Rays, and coming across the bridge, it's a thing, just like it's always been a thing, going across the bridge to see the Lightning and the Bucks, and we have the Rowdies now here in St. Petersburg. It goes both ways. That's literally an analogy. The bridge goes both ways. It goes east to Tampa and west to St. Peter, Pinellas County. Come over and watch your Rays. Tim Haynes says, good morning, Ray. Tim, thank you so much. Al McTavish, of course, did a spot check in here with his very family-friendly Lightning shirt on. You got some pretty lips. Let the Lightning begin. I tell you what, excited about this game today. And want to wrap it back to what Alex said about the veteran leadership. And I kind of went there with him that, we're talking about this, the Rays organization, Stu Sternberg, Brian All, they got the stadium. We're going to break ground. Everything seems to be moving right in that direction. And they didn't even have to, they've lost no face on the fact that we still got a pretty fantastically talented team in 2024, but you're waiting for a Jeffrey Springs. You're waiting for a McClanahan, which is not going to be till next year. You're waiting for a Drew Rasmussen. And of course you have a Taj Bradley and, the other pitching and some of the other Savale, and of course, Zach Eflin just pitching it. And how fortunate were we to get that guy? But veteran leadership team to a young Rays team, and opposed to with the Lightning, you had a veteran team and you brought in a declarer, you bring in some young players that you still build around that nucleus of those performances. Whereas the antithesis, if you will, that's probably a Leo word, antithesis, is that you have a young Rays team that they don't even know what they don't know. They got off last year to 13-0 start. Everybody in the world were the highlights to Sports Center every night, and didn't it feel great as a Tampa Bay fan and a Rays fan to see that? But maybe when they get to the postseason, they're choking up on the bat and they're holding on a little too much. They're white knuckling that bat maybe a little too much. And maybe that's that fine line between having a team too young to not even know what they don't know, and maybe bringing in a veteran or bringing in being a buyer at the trade deadline to bring in some veteran leadership. Doesn't have to be a $50 million. You don't have to try to be going after Justin Verlander. You're not going to have to go over, you're not trying to but bring in a veteran presence that can not so much try to tell these young bucks what they don't know, but just lead by example and let them learn what they should be learning as the Rays get to the postseason. I think you see that in 2024, because I think the Stu Sternberg, if the Rays are in contention, and I think we all agree that they should be, then the Rays have to be buyers at the deadline, just on the fact that they're getting that new $1.5 billion stadium across the street. And that's the way you should do for your community, right? John Shearer says Miami Heat and the Carolina Hurricanes, man, they look good. They're fast. That's probably the reason. Probably we could talk about a rival. I remember back when Terry Crisp was our coach, and every time the Lightning played the Calgary Flames, and I was like, I wanted that to be a rivalry. And then it's like, then the Panthers were in state, and it's not like the war on I-4 between like USF and UCF, or it used to be between the Tampa Bay Storm and the Orlando Predators. But I wanted the Florida Panthers to be a competitive or a interstate rivalry, which it has in the last couple of years. It started to get there. You're starting to call them the stinking Panthers. The Hurricanes were definitely one of the Lightning's, if not one of their biggest foes, one of our rivalries. And of course, the tie-in with that is it also ties into the NFL between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Hurricanes. So I love it, John. Appreciate it. Eric Harden, Eric in here today. Tampa needs to win today, 100%, Eric. Just because, I mean, it's not a must win, like, as in you're out, like one and done, like the play-in game, but yet just what Alex was talking about, what Harry was talking about, and I think Alex also touched on it, is the fact that this Lightning team got so hot near the end, right? Everything started to click. A team that had always played offense, or at least had offense this year, all of a sudden they're playing defense, and they're putting that defense together with that offense, and now all of a sudden they look like the Lightning that were going for back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. Look for that today, and that's when I think, Eric, when you say the Lightning need to win today, I think that's because we need to see that Lightning team that we continue to see coming on at the end of the season. They can go in and this is what Harry the Greek said, and I love this, that you'll see them if they go down there and have a good sounding win against those Panthers. You'll see the Lightning probably not be underdogs again, or if they are, it's only because the team they're playing in the next round is that much better or is having that much more success. Eric says, hi, everyone. Hi, Eric. Appreciate you. Tim Haynes says, I agree. They don't know what they don't know. And that's it. That's just it, Tim, right? Is that if I told you there's one team has a $265 million payroll, and the other team's got a $96 million payroll that's making the owner sweat because he's never put out that much money for a payroll before, which is still not even middle of the pack for what the average salary is for in the major league or a payroll for a team. But if I told you one team had a $250 million payroll and one team had a 95, and I said, which team do you think has more youngsters? I mean, I think that goes without saying, right? But that's been the Rays' DNA. I mean, giving guys a shot, because realize it's such 3 years in the minors, 4 years in them. I'm reading David Cohn's book. I wanted to say it's Full Count, but I'm in the middle of reading that book right now. And he talks about, of course, he came up in the KC Royals. He was played for the Kansas City Royals from Kansas, from Kansas City out there. Grew up a lifelong Royals fan. But the career David Cohn had, pitching for the Yankees, pitching for the Mets, just a dog. But he had to work to get there. Success. It wasn't like Roger Clemens as a rookie in '87 on 2020, throwing pepper heat against all four corners and then smacking in the middle with his control. David Cohn was more of a, throwing the arm at different angles, coming at you from, throwing it fast from the side, coming across the top, his drop point and all stuff like that. My point being is it took him, I think, 5 years to get his first start in Major League Baseball, which is about an average, I think, maybe 3 to 5 years, an average for even some of your great baseball players to actually get to the bigs. So it's a developmental thing. And I think that's one thing that precludes, not really a Leo word, but it excludes the Rays from going out and trying to find big contracts, even if we want Stu Sternberg to take that $96 million payroll and put it north of $120, Stu. So as you got some skin in the game. You're getting a new stadium. I think that starts to go against the DNA of this Rays team. We need to have these young kids realizing we give them the trust, we give them the faith, do what you can, and we'll go ahead and put it all together. So just again, I got another comment. Let me run this one. No, that's it. Appreciate y'all. I saw the hope Tampa wins game 1 today. Will be huge. Eric, 100%, brother. I appreciate you, Eric, being my last comment. Again, I want to go ahead and thank the staff at the world famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill. Those chicken wings, I can smell the burgers frying. Of course, you don't get to be the best of the Bay, as recognized by Creative Loafing, 2019 best local columnist. Oh yeah. But no, they got the food cooking out here, and there's TVs everywhere. And because you have the Lightning at 12:30 and the Rays at 1:30, wherever you sit inside here, there will be other televisions dedicated to some of the other sports, because that's something you get down here at Ferg's. It's not going to be all this, but most of the televisions here are going to be on the Rays and the Lightning. So get it. Kick ice, beat the Thunder, raise up, whatever you want to do. Siege the day. Didn't talk about any Bucks in this one. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It's just that I wanted to keep it real on the things that are on the agenda today. The Porter being lifelong banned from the Major League NBA basketball because of the gambling. Some of the things with the Lightning and the playoff game, and of course the Rays, and then with the draft this week. Of course, join us on Wednesday night. You saw Peter Blake said there will be a draft show. I will be getting in there on Wednesday night for the draft show. It's the fans' draft show, right? We know what's going to happen Thursday night. Goodell's going to walk out on there. He's going to, bring the gavel, or I don't know what he does, but, whatever he does to make that $100 million a year he gets paid. And he's going to start the NFL draft, and then we'll see where the Bucks go. Where the Bucks are drafting, it almost feels like a place where Jason Light would wait to get there, and maybe there's a team out there, one of the other 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 teams that really just need a whole bunch of pieces. That maybe there is a Kool-Aid, maybe there is, maybe Jason's drinking a Kool-Aid at that spot, but maybe they're also trading back and acquiring some more things, because we know what Jason Light does. With Light we trust, he makes magic happen in the second, third, and even in the fourth rounds. No more comments. So again, FootageBound.com, FootageBound Productions, the best videography in Florida. I've told you all about this, and I'm just going to go ahead and end with this. Anybody can point and use a camera, and that's what's great is that I've actually seen it where FootageBound has actually taken some of the other videos from some people at the wedding, although they really don't need it because they've got 2 studio quality cameras set up all over the place. They got the nuptials on the altar, and they got the coverage at the back for the entire church. But anyone can make a video. But only the true professionals know where to be when, what not to miss, the introductions, the first dance, grandma whispering into her granddaughter's ears, congratulations. Of course, you don't get that on audio, but those are moments you see because it means so much to the groom and the bride and the groom. That's what you get with FootageBound Productions. Also, bury the lead. The magic you get is once the tape is in the can and the day of the wedding is over, FootageBound has the best editing. 100% studio quality. They did the Cup Array opener. They'll do your wedding. They'll do your friend's wedding. They'll do your mom and dad's wedding. They'll do your son and daughter's wedding. If you know anybody at all, and Florida's a huge destination wedding. They've done Disney weddings. They've done East Coast Florida, Daytona Beach. They've been down in Miami. Actually, I was working with them at that point. We've went down to Naples. We've gone as far as the Keys. All over the state of Florida, and that's why I pose it's Florida's best wedding videography, the best wedding videographers in all of the state of Florida, as recognized at one point by the Knot, and the Knot doesn't play around with stuff like that. So if you got anybody even if it's not a wedding, maybe it's a bridal shower, maybe it's a gender reveal, although I don't see too many of those going on anymore. I know they do them here and there, and they're fun. Anything at all. Any videography needs you have, send them to FootageBound.com. Check out their work. You can call for references. You can actually call for quotes, and they'll work with you. They're the best videographers in Florida, and that's FootageBound Productions. And you can go to them at FootageBound.com. That's my spiel. I hope you all have a great day. Everyone needs to know someone cares today. Why don't you be the one that lets them know? And I got one more comment. This is perfect. This is what they call the perfect way to end a Cup of Rays show. Tim Haynes says, have a great day. Bolts, have a great day, Ray. Go Bolts, go Rays. Have a great day down here in St. Petersburg. The sidewalks are starting to bubble up. Food's starting to cook. It's a playoff atmosphere down here at the world-famous Ferg Sports Bar and Grill, which, in case you didn't know, they're out here on Central Avenue, just below 16th Street in the Edge District of St. Petersburg. Have a great day. I hope to see you all on the next Cup of Ray. Enjoy life. Everyone needs to know someone cares today. Be the one, let them know. Have a great day, everybody.